Alright, what's good? Today I have a 2004 Tahoe with a complaint of the battery light coming on. So first, let's take a look at what it's doing. So the battery light is flickering. I don't know how else to describe it. Now when I got in and it started up okay. Didn't really have a battery problem, so to say. Now your uncle might tell you to replace the battery, and a fast and easy YouTube fraud might tell you to replace the alternator, but we know better than to listen to some wet ass P words. Let's see what's really going on. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to see if the cluster is telling the battery light to turn on. The cluster is a computer, so I can use my fancy scan tool, and right here it's telling me that the light is commanded off, but it's on. This is without a doubt the most accurate way to diagnose this as an internal cluster fault, and is what should be expected if you were paying a professional for a diagnosis. Now most of you guys don't have access to a fancy scan tool that can read the battery light command, but you're not totally out of luck. Some other clues can be used. So the first thing you'll notice is even when the battery light comes on, the gauge doesn't change. It's still at 14, which is right around where it should be. Now another thing I did do in the diagnostic was I clamped the output of the alternator using a clamp meter. She's pushing out 40 amps, and at the same time the voltage is 14 volts. So this charging system's actually working pretty good. The third clue would be that there are no codes in the PCM. Alright, sometimes when I explain this stuff, I fuck up. I'm sorry I'm not perfect. I'm sorry I'm not Dylan Harper. So when I said that you guys might not have access to a scan tool, I mean a scan tool like my Tech 2 or my Solus or my Modus. But you could have access to something like this, just a little cheap OBD2 code reader. This one even fits in your pocket. Read the codes in this Tahoe here. No codes. Now if something happens and the battery light comes on, the reason the battery light comes on is stored in the PCM. So let's review what we got, assuming that we didn't have a scan tool. Our voltmeter doesn't drop down when the battery light comes on. Our alternator output is okay when the battery light comes on. And we have no DTCs in the PCM, which would indicate a problem with the charging system. Alright, so let's just take a quick look at how this battery light works. It's going to be very crude drawings. Sorry about that. This Pac-Man looking thing is going to be the alt. This is going to be the PCM. This bigger Pac-Man looking thing is going to be the cluster. I think somewhere like right there was the battery light. So there are two wires that go from the PCM to the alternator. Now one wire is for the PCM to turn the voltage regulator on inside the alternator. The other wire is to see if the voltage regulator is doing what it's being told. The PCM talks to the cluster over data. If the PCM sees a problem with either of these two circuits, or a problem with the voltage regulator, which is internal to the alternator, it sends a data message to the cluster to turn the battery light on. If the alternator fails and it's not putting out anything, the battery light comes on and the gauge inside the cluster drops, and you get the message to check charging system if you have driver's information center. And that would be just like a traditional do your alternator test. I think I did that back in the Silverado alternator replacement video. We test the signal wire that the voltage regulator is getting a signal to turn on. We had no output from the alternator. We replaced the alternator. So problems with these two circuits could set P0622 and P1637. Those codes would be stored in the PCM. However, they do not turn on the check engine light. They turn on the battery light. I shouldn't have to say this because I know you guys are smart, but if someone did have the P0622 and the P1637, don't do what I'm about to do with this cluster mod. Don't do it. Those codes have to be addressed. I know no matter how far I go with trying to explain how this crap works and why I'm doing what I'm doing, somebody somewhere is going to get it all fucked up. They're going to take their cluster apart. They're going to disable the battery light. And they're still going to have problems because they just didn't read the fucking instructions, which were spelled out to the best of my ability. But then again, we're in an era where we're debating 2 + 2 = 4, so shouldn't be surprised. So in the case of the Tahoe, I got 5 pieces of evidence. I've got no charging system codes. I've got good amperage. I've got good voltage. My voltmeter doesn't move. And the command state to the battery light is off, even though the battery light's on. I know that this thing needs a cluster. Now, if you guys remember, back about 3 years or so ago, I put a remanufactured cluster in this Tahoe. Cost a couple $100. I'm not really fitting to do it again. I've already done a video about testing the cluster itself and replacing it. I'm not going to go through all that again. We're going to do an unconventional repair here because I'm faced with a choice. Do I sink another couple $100 in this truck on another remanufactured cluster, or do I just eliminate the problem? And me, fuck it, I'm eliminating the problem. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we're going to do a test bench fire up of this cluster for the Tahoe. So we got our battery light there. Got some other things that come on. The goal here is going to be to get the battery light not to come on anymore. Always make sure you use a snap-on pocket screwdriver when you do this. Oops. And as you saw, I bumped the fuel gauge. It's no big deal. Go ahead, blip her on and off without setting my house on fire. Alright, so got all the gauges marked. Gonna rotate them back. 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 Turn signal, tire light, squiggly line thing. I don't know what that light is. Traction control off, and battery. So it's this one that's got to come off. And go ahead and just undo these tabs. Don't be surprised if any of these tabs break off. Remember, this thing's been, cooking in a dash for the last 16 years. So it was turn signal, something, 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 something. This one right here should be battery. The caveman approach would be just to take pliers and just pull this thing right off. So if I'm looking at this right, it just looks like there's a positive and negative side. It just looks like two pads are soldered. Transaction complete. Do not fall and burn my shit. Don't do it, dickhead. So it looks like the observation was right. Just two little pads on that circuit board. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was a really clean extraction. So if everything went right, there shouldn't be a light that comes on here. Yeah, that would have been low fuel. I think that was ABS and that was airbag. Some advice, sometimes the pins pull out with the needle. Like the needle will be sticking in here and you have to replace the stepper motor. I had already gone ahead and just made sure that I had an extra 6-pack of stepper motors before I took this thing apart, just in case one of those needles pulled this little shaft out with it. I don't have a reason to replace the stepper motors in this truck. Gotta make sure he works too. He can be an asshole. Before I go any further, just gonna clean this up a little bit. Now I don't know if any of those shafts might have spun. So the last thing I do before I put this thing back together, I'm going to fire it up, defire it. Now when I put these needles back on to these little alignment marks I made earlier, everything will line up. Try it again, make sure they all work. Nice. So now would be a good time, while you have this part off, you can take a microfiber, just kind of knock all the crudlies out behind here. If you're trying to make it look pretty. In this case I'm not, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to see if I can find a link to where I bought this connector for. It's like a reverse radio connector. It also works on the instrument clusters of the Tahoe, Silverado, Yukon stuff, and also the Trailblazer and Envoy platform. The way that I've got it wired up now, this only applies to the Tahoe. I've only fact-checked this on 2004 Tahoe. As you can see, I've used a lot of these different circuits for doing different things on these clusters, and they vary between vehicles, so what I'm showing here only applies to a 2004 Tahoe. I can't stress this enough that while this might look easy and you just watched a YouTube video testing this crap, for someone like myself who's semi-fluent in electronics, yeah, this isn't really a big deal. But you can actually cook your cluster if you fuck something up while doing this. And I've been thinking about just calling this like Unconventional Fixes Episode 6, because this is not a typical repair. In a shop environment, the shop would sell you a new cluster, a complete remanufactured, hopefully, cluster. So this modification was done 8 months ago. It was somewhere like November or December of 2019, and there hasn't been a single issue. The truck's been perfect. Just the battery light doesn't come on. One way that you can tell if your Tahoe or Silverado or Trailblazer or whatever has already been modified like this would be that the battery light doesn't come on when you first turn the key on. Kind of like how it didn't turn on after I did the modification on the workbench. Well, that was pretty cool. Definitely not what you'd consider a conventional repair by any means, but took care of a problem and saved a couple $100 in the process. And like I said, if that truck did develop a problem with the charging system, the gauge as well as the message would still work. Now, if you guys remember from last time, I reset the clock back 4 months. So while today is really August 14th, I'm treating it like it's April 14th. The 50,000 subscriber special is coming. You definitely want to keep your eye out for anything that looks out of place in some of these videos. Doing it this way ensures that everyone has an equal chance to win fat shit. Yeah. Alright, I'm trying something new. I'm going to go over a couple questions from the last video. You just mad you don't have anything to unbox. I unboxed your mom last night. Number 2, COVID-19 is a hoax. The election. Hold on. First of all, to regular people, it is called the fucking coronavirus. So please remove the tinfoil hat off of your intellectual high horse before you get off of he/him. Also, mask for your protection. Number 3, did you go to school to learn electronics? I did have schooling through the dealership that I work for. They sent me off for manufacturers training from time to time. Anytime an electronics class came, I went for it. But as far as like the remote start, I never went to school for any of that crap. Most of the stuff I just learned, particularly from the 12volt.com, just reading everything I could to learn how this stuff works and how to install it. Because like I said, it's a hobby. I just like doing stuff like that. Hey bro, I have a problem. Can you call me? Here's my number. No, my phone is prepaid. I don't have a monthly contract. I pay for minutes and texts. They're very valuable because I don't want to buy them, but I kind of need to. so I don't waste them. Oh yeah, the fake me. Okay, so there's a fake me out there on a certain 6-letter website. Please don't post any of my content on other websites. I don't participate on this website. I just go there for the titties. Please do not get me banned from seeing the titties. I don't ask for much. Don't do it. Don't promote my stuff anywhere. I mean, good looking out and all that, but no. That about wraps this up. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. If you don't, fuck you. Let's go on a road test. Well, hello party people. Today's road test is brought to you by the 2013 GMC Terrain. Folks, if you need a car that sucks, listen, this has everything you could possibly want in a car that sucks. How many times do I gotta tell you? Terrain, Equinox, even the Buick version, which I forget what it's called, but we'll just call it the It Sucks. Yes, this is the car for you. Actually, I'm lying. This is not brought to you by the 2013 Terrain. If it was, I couldn't tell you that it sucks. And what fun would that be? No fun at all. But fuck this truck or car, SUV, crossover. I have something to discuss. People who are in my close circle, they know about this and, you know, the repair video you just watched. They know what the fuck goes on. I guess they don't watch it because if they did, they would know that if they take shots at me, I'm going to take shots at them. Their shots get heard by like 3 or 4 of their friends and they get a little chuckle. I take shots at them. It gets heard by tens and hundreds of thousands of people and I get paid for it. So someone took a shot at me and now it's time for me to take a shot at them. Awesome, right? No. I came on here fully intending talking about sports bras. But no, somebody had to go and fuck all that up. Congratulations, buddy. You got a loan! All right. Way to go, champ. Hey, listen. When you're making that monthly payment month after month after month for the next couple fucking years, I won't be. I've talked about this before on one of these here road tests, but I'm so backlogged with them. Chances are you guys probably haven't seen this yet, but I do not congratulate people for borrowing money to buy things. I don't do it. I've learned it's best just to keep my fucking mouth shut. If it's in real life, I don't say shit. If it's online, I don't post anything. It's best just not to get involved in that argument. So I guess this person thought that because he took out a loan and now has something nicer than me that he's doing better than me or whatever the fuck. The difference here is, like, I can tell you guys, I could not afford the truck that I wanted. I wanted a Silverado of the 03 to 06 variety. For $8,000, you can only get something that's like rusted to oblivion with like 200,000 miles on it. Not really what I wanted. I reevaluated what I needed, and really what I needed was a 4-wheel drive vehicle. That's really what I needed. And one thing led to another, and now I have Ruby Red. I have the title to Ruby Red. It's mine. Yeah, she's rough around the edges. She's a work vehicle. It's 4-wheel drive. I could drive it every day. I even drove the bitch 100 miles to see the fam a couple months ago. You could get hurt on the job and lose everything. You don't own it, you dumb motherfucker. What's up, party people? Today's road test is brought to you by the 2014 Mazda 3. It's a little bit different because it's one of those. Anyway, there's not much else I can say about this car, except it sucks. On with the road test. Let this be a valuable lesson to you guys. This whole virus thing, let it be a lesson to you guys. To live inside your means. I said in another video where I was talking about somebody was talking shit because they bought a new 2020 pickup that they're going to be paying for it. Well, actually, it's probably going to get repoed now because they lost their job. Can't be like, well, as long as I make my 40 hours, I can afford that truck and I can afford that toolbox and I can afford this house and blah, blah, blah. You never fucking know what the fuck's going to happen. Yeah, what's up, motherfuckers? Today's road test brought to you by the 2018 Kia Optima. That's right. Folks, listen. You want a car that sucks? This is the car for you. But who cares about this fucking Kia and whatever the fuck? Something to discuss. I didn't use my turn signal. What are they going to say? Can you identify the man that didn't use his turn signal? Oh, he was this guy wearing a fucking mask and some fucking diva glasses. Yeah, that'll get you real far.
fucking assholes. So listen, I made a road test video. You guys have not seen it yet. Somebody that I know decided to take a couple jabs at me because I bought my ruby red princess. You know what I'm saying? I bought my 2007 Envoy, 200,000 miles on it, whatever. This person had gone out and bought the new 2020, whatever the fuck, Silverado. He's saying, yeah, look, I'm doing better than this guy because he just bought that. Look what I bought. And then guess what? Coronavirus came, took his fucking truck away. That's what you get, motherfucker. Now I guess my ruby red princess looks a little bit more appealing now, doesn't she?